Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. It's the final of the Fountain Pen Tournament. We've been doing this for a few weeks. You've been voting for the winning pen each week. We're up to the final. The two pens, the Monteverde Ritma, going up against the TWSBI Eco. Two exceptionally nice pens. Two pens well deserving of being in the final. What I'm going to do is have a quick look at the bodies and do some size comparisons, weights and measures, a writing sample. I'll give you my thoughts on these pens, then it's over to you to vote for the winning pen. Welcome down to the table. So here we've got our two pens for the final. We've got the Monteverde Ritma, and this is in olive green, and we've got the TWSBI Eco, and this one's in green. Two pens that have gone through the heats, gone through the semi-finals, and finally been matched here in the final. Let's start by taking a walk through the bodies. Two very different bodies, aren't they? The Ritma, all metal. The TWSBI, all plastic. Not going to do a detailed walkthrough, just going to look where we've got differences really. We'll start with the caps. So the cap on the Ritma, metal. Cap on the TWSBI, as I say, is plastic, and on the TWSBI, this is like a hexagon. If I turn that around, you hopefully see the light catching there. Whereas on the Ritma, it's just round. The Ritma, we've got a slight indent at the top, then we come down into this metal clip. The cap, same width all the way down, and there's next to nothing between the cap and the body. You can feel the seam, but there's no drop off. With the TWSBI, we've got the TWSBI logo at the top in this, I can never remember what it's called, I think it's a hexagon. We come down into, it looks metal but it feels plastic, and it's very, very stiff. Same width. I do like this green colour. I like the fact it's transparent, so you can actually see the working end. You can see there the nib through this material. Then at the bottom, we've got a ring here where we've got Eco and TWSBI, and then there's a noticeable drop off down to the body of the Eco. We do have writing on the Monteverde as well on the Ritma. Here we go. We've got Monteverde. Let me turn this around. Monteverde, then Ritma. The Ritma, this is a cartridge converter. So let me just open this up. There's a converter in there. One of the things I have noticed, just moving it to the mic, there's a lot of squeaking when you're taking that body off. With the Eco, it's a piston filler. You can see that. Again, I love the demonstrator, the transparency, being able to see the ink. A bit difficult with this ink because it's fairly dark and it's still quite full, but once it gets about half empty and you can start seeing the ink sloshing around, I really like that. Downside, you do lose about a third of the barrel to the mechanism, but it still holds an awful lot of ink. The caps on the Ritma pulls off. It's also got a magnetic clipping system, so let me just show you. So if I fetch this close, there we go, let me get it on. I'm going to slightly tap it, and then eventually the magnet will kick in and pull it the rest of the way with that nice click. Just move that to the mic so you can hear the click. Very satisfying. Oh. With the TWSBI, it twists off in half. One turn, so that's not too bad. Let me pop these next to each other. The section's very different. So on the Ritma, nice, wide, generous section. Metallic, very slippy, so you need to be careful how you hold it. Same width all the way down. With the TWSBI, very narrow, and what this is doing is it's tapering down, then near the bottom it comes out, so there's a little bit of a lip. I hold my pens quite low, so my fingers sit there quite nicely. Let's take a closer look at the nibs. There they are next to each other. So with the Monteverde, this is a black nib. Goes well with the rest of the body. On the nib, very simple. We've got the Monteverde logo. Underneath that, we've got Monteverde, then USA. This nib's made for them by Yoho. On the TWSBI, smaller nib. The Monteverde's is a number 6. This is, I believe, a number 5 nib. Bit more intricate, so we've got more intricate engraving around the edge. Then we've got the TWSBI logo and the word TWSBI, and then below that we've got the size of the nib. Both very nice. Let's pop the caps on. With the bodies, so let's just move that apart there. They've got some breathing room now. The bodies are very tubular on both of them. Same width on both, so the same width all the way down. Different widths, we'll see that when we do the size comparisons. At the end of the Monteverde, we've got this metal bit. What this is, if you want to post it, the cap will post. Again, we've got that magnet system. So if I just slightly tap it, there we go, it catches. With the TWSBI, this has got the filling mechanism, so this is what you twist towards that piston. You can post this. It posts here onto this O-ring. So it posts and it feels very, very tight on there. I wouldn't recommend posting. I would be worried always about accidentally twisting that mechanism as I'm taking the cap off when I've posted it. Let's swap on over, do some size comparisons. Brought in my two standards, Pilot Metropolitan, Lamy Safari. To be honest, for all intents and purposes, all four pens very similar in terms of length. Width-wise, obviously the Metropolitan is slightly narrower than the other two. Let's pop the caps off. With the caps on, we start to see a different story. The Metropolitan, shortest of the three. Then I would say we've got the Monteverde, the Ritma and the Safari, very much tie-in, and just that little bit longer is that TWSBI Eco. The number 5 Japanese nib on the Pilot on that Metropolitan looks very similar in size to the number 5 nib on that TWSBI Eco. In the hand, the Metropolitan unposted is very nice. Nice width, nice length, fairly weighty. It can post, adds more weight, makes it feel as if it's dragging down towards the back for me, but unposted I find this quite comfortable. With the Eco, again unposted, very nice, a lot lighter. You can really notice the difference there. As I showed before, it will post. To me, makes it very long, very heavy, very back heavy. Again, this feels like this is dragging down the back of the pen. So I don't post either of these. Let's swap on over and look at some pens in roughly the same price range. The pens I've brought in. We've got the Schaefer Prelude, that's 94 Aussie dollars. The Monteverde Ritma, 92 Aussie dollars. The TWSBI Eco, 59 Aussie dollars. And the Narwhal Key West, and this is the Isla Mirada, 64 Aussie dollars. Again, that TWSBI, longer than both of them. And to be honest, both the pens are brought in a lot shorter. I really find this interesting nib here on the Prelude. This is a Mr. Pen nib. Very nice, it's an unusual nib. Writes absolutely gorgeously. Let's pop the caps on. With the caps on, the Narwhal, definitely longer, isn't it? And that Schaefer Prelude, definitely shorter. The other two pens, very much for muchness. Let's swap on over and we'll fetch in the rule of measuring. Here we've got the rule of measuring. We're starting with the Ritma. So with the cap on, 13.7 centimetres. Unposted, 12.8 centimetres. Then posted, 16.1 centimetres. The width of the body, 1.3 centimetres. The width of the cap, 1.3 centimetres. And the section, that's a constant 1.2 centimetres all the way down. With the TWSBI, so the full pen with that cap on, 13.8, so 0.1 of a millimetre difference. Unposted, 13 centimetres, so about 0.2 of a millimetre difference. Posted, 16.9 centimetres, so that's about 0.8 of a millimetre difference. The width of the body, that's 1.21. The width of the cap, 1.39. The section goes from 0.82 up to 0.94. I do find this is a fairly thin feeling section. Let's swap on over and fetch in the scales of weighing. Here's the scales of weighing. The Monteverde, the full pen, 49 grams. Remember, we've got ink in here. The body, 34 grams. And the cap, 16 grams. Quite a weighty pen. With the Eco, 22 grams for the full pen. Body alone, 13 grams. Remember, there's ink in here. Cap, 9 grams. Massive weight difference between the two. Let's swap on over and fetch in the notepad of testing. Just dropping in to interrupt your regular programming. Would you like to help support the channel? If so, please consider joining as a member. As a member, you'll get early access to my videos. I normally upload them a couple of days before they go out, and as soon as they're uploaded, they'll be released to members. There'll also be a shout out at the end of the videos, and then as we get the members coming in, we'll actually chat among ourselves and work out what other perks, what other things you'd like me to add in. You know, would you like maybe a monthly live chat just for members? All down to us. So please, if you can, consider joining the channel. A link will be in the description down below. With this being the final, I'm going to use a different paper again. In the heats, we used Oxford Optic paper. In the semi-finals, I used Ayush paper. Today, for the final, I'm going to use this. This is an endless recorder, and it's 68 GSM Tomai River paper. So let's get to the page. There we go. Got my blotting paper to rest my hand on. For full information, the temperature is currently 25 centigrade, and it's 68% humidity. I tell you that because it can affect drying times. We'll start writing with the Monteverde Ritma. So we've got Monteverde, Ritma with a broad nib. Price for this pen, 92 Aussie dollars. The ink is by Robert Oster, and it's called Moss. Nice, I'm going to call it a dull green. It's not a bright green. Goes well with this olive body though, I think. Drying times, so we got immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. 30 seconds, that's nice and dry. Let's look for any line variation. So here's with no pressure. Here's where I add some pressure. So it does feel stiffer when you put that pressure on, fairly stiff feeling nib. Slightly wider, but you know, you're pushing down a bit on it, so you expect that. So there's none with, none with, none and with. Then going down again and going across, we get the same width. Going to move the mic down to the page and write a sentence. Finally, the fleur test. Absolutely gorgeous, really nice. Nice to write with. The nib does feel fairly stiff, so you've got to be aware of that. You know, you're not going to get a lot of line variation. It's a broad nib, puts down a really nice, generous line. A little bit of shading coming through in this ink. Just lift it up so you can see. Not a lot. I wouldn't expect a lot from it. It's quite nice, and I do think we have got a nice match there. So that's the Monteverde Ritma. Just move the page up, and what we'll do now is write with the Eco. So here we've got the TWSBI Eco. So we've got here a TWSBI Eco, and this has got a 1.1 stub nib. Price wise, you're looking 59 Aussie dollars. The ink is by Diamine. It was one of the Inkvent inks. It's Black Ivy. Very dark green colour, and as it dries we'll see, hopefully we should see a nice red sheen to it. Drying times, There's immediate. Looks an awful lot wetter, doesn't it? 10 seconds. 30 seconds. 1 minute. I'll go to the next line for that. Still fairly wet there. Let's do a 2-minute test. Two minutes, still getting a little teeny bit of a smudge. So as a combo, that this looks really, really wet. Line variation. So here's no pressure. Add some pressure. This is a fairly soft filling nib, so we do get a noticeable difference in that line width. So none with, none with, none with. Even here you can see it. Where we do see a difference between the two nibs, there's going down, there's going across, because of the stub nature of this nib. I'm going to move the mic down to the page and write a sentence. And then the scribble. So here we seem to have a bit of a flow issue. May have been me because on my scrap paper it wrote straight off. Could have just been I got the nib at the wrong direction. And this is one of the things I do find with this nib. It's easy for me to rotate it off the writing, and that's where it would stop. So that was a good little test there. So what are my thoughts for these pens? These are two very different pens. It's hard to compare them, even though in terms of size, they look very similar. There's a lot of weight in this metal pen. Really can feel it. Whereas with the Eco, awful lot lighter. But let's break it down, shall we? We'll start with pen looks. They both look unique in their own right. You can't really compare the two in terms of looks. Say we've got metal, we've got plastic. They're both utilitarian. You know, they are made to write with. They're not made to sit there and look at. I do like the simple looks of this. I like the way we've got the contrast between the metal and this beautiful olive green. With the Eco, I always think this just looks like a tube with a nib. I know it's not a nice way to describe it, but when you look at it, that's all it does seem to be. It's a plastic tube. There's a nib shoved in the end. Whereas at least with that, you've got that metal there. You've got some tactileness to it. So for pen looks, I think they're both very, very nice, I say, but utilitarian. Build quality, had no issues with either of them. Really good quality. It's easy to get in and clean them. With the Eco, to clean it, all I do is pull the nib and feed out. I then can use a syringe and really deep clean inside there. It is possible to take apart the piston mechanism. I've not done that. I've not had the issues with it jamming or feeling stiff. So why take it apart if you don't need to? You know, when you can easily get in from the end here and give it a really good deep clean. With the Ritma, again, it's solid, no issues. Biggest issue I have is I forget that the cap is twist off. So I will start twisting this and then realise I pull it off. And quite often I've started unscrewing that. I've also found at times the body starts to unscrew when I'm doing some longer writing. But build quality, again, both very, very good. The writing experience, really nice. As we've seen here, we're getting a nice line going down with the Ritma. It's nice, it's solid, it's consistent. I have found this pen doesn't seem to like shimmer inks, which is fine. I now know that. I understand that. So I just don't use a shimmer ink in here. With the Eco, to me, I love the fact it's a stub nib. I know comparing different nibs, I just love the natural line variation. It's really, really wet. And like with sheening inks, I try to always use a sheening ink in here because just look at this sheen that we're getting. Hopefully if I can capture that on the camera. Beautiful, very dark, almost black green. But then if you can get the light right, which I can, but I'm not sure if it comes over on the camera, it pops with this beautiful red sheen. Very nice. So writing experience, really, really good. Ink flow, generally not had issues. As I say, with the Monteverde Ritma, have had issues when I've used a shimmer ink, so I just don't use them. With the Eco, but we saw there when we were doing our scribble test, we had a little issue there. I think that's me, how I was holding the nib. I have also found, I think we saw here when I was doing this hash mark, got to be careful that you don't push the nib too much, otherwise you can get a bit of railroading. But ink flow, again, not too bad. Comfort, I like the weight of the Ritma, very, very nice. I like the width of the Ritma, very, very nice. I've got larger hands. I also have little bits of arthritis in my joints, in my finger and my thumb. I find this comfortable to use. I can use this for hours on end. With the Eco, a lot lighter, so it disappears, it vanishes into your hand when you're using it. The problem I get with this, though, I just think that section just a little bit too thin for me. Again, I've got large hands. I mean, maybe for a student or someone with smaller hands might be a lot better, but that's a very personal thing. But comfort-wise, other than that, very nice. Nice shape, nice size. I said the weight for what each pen is doing isn't actually too bad. Let me just move this up. I've knocked everything down a bit. Value for money. Interesting question, this value for money. At $92, I think what you're paying for what you're getting is, to be honest, is quite good. It's a good, solid, weighty pen. It's not what I would say is a starter pen. I think it's like that second level pen. So if you're new into fountain pens, maybe looking to buy your first or second pen, wouldn't recommend this. But if you're looking for that third or fourth, you've got the bug now. I think this is well worth looking at. The Eco, to me, is one of the best starter pens you can get. It's a very good workhorse pen. It's a piston filler, so you need to use bottled ink. It gives you a massive range of choice though, doesn't it? I mean, you can still use bottled ink, which is what I do with the Ritma, but you can only use bottled ink with the Eco. So there's a downside there. But it's a good workhorse pen. It's a good solid pen. Starting to get a little bit on the expensive side. That's the only thing I would say. When I bought this one, I think it was 42 Aussie dollars. They're now up to 59. So you're starting to get just that top edge of a starter pen. But I think, not necessarily for your first pen, but for a second pen, the Eco is a very good choice. So they're my thoughts on the Monteverde Ritma and the TWSBI Eco. Now, it's over to you to decide which one should be the winner. Which one should win the crown, should win the award for the Fountain Pen Tournament for 2024. To vote, head on over to my YouTube community page. There you'll find a poll, select the winner, and then Sunday of next week, I'll announce the winning pen on my YouTube Live. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. So they're the finalists. We've had a look at them. We've spoken about them. Down to you. Head on over to the YouTube community page. On there you'll find a poll where you can pick the winning pen. The winner will be announced on next Sunday's YouTube Live. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.